Those are some of the many noises you will be hearing in less than 48 hours from now. It is finally time to kick off the college football season. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Chris Sylvester, and in this jam-packed next half hour or so, I will be previewing all of the Thursday games in college football, as well as the tight Major League Baseball races and the NFL news around the NFL. And there's some pretty big news around the NFL regarding players holding out and coming back, or quarterback races, or injuries. You know, there's a lot to cover in this jam-packed half hour. Welcome into Chris's Corner. I'm Chris Sylvester, your host. On Twitter, it's at MLB Insider Chris. That's at MLB Insider Chris on Twitter. So you just heard the intro. It's 48 hours away, and I don't know if there's anybody as excited as I am to finally see college football back in action. It's been a long 9 months since we last saw action, and it all starts on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 o'clock Pacific. The big game, the ESPN game that a lot of people are going to be watching. Number 9 South Carolina visits Vanderbilt. That's just one of a plethora of games going on Thursday. UCF visits Akron. Eastern Michigan visits Ball State. Southeastern Missouri State visits Central Michigan. Towson visits Kent State. Northern Colorado visits Utah. Massachusetts visits Connecticut. UCLA visits Rice. McNeese State visits Middle Tennessee. Sacramento State visits New Mexico State. Southern Utah visits Utah State. Eastern Washington visits Idaho. Washington State goes to BYU. Northern Arizona goes to Arizona State. And Minnesota goes to UNLV. Now you hear those games, and the game that I'm most intrigued to watch got postponed. Now, why would a college football game ever get postponed? Isn't football played through rain, snow, thunder, lightning? Isn't that what's up? Well, that's true. But what about a hurricane? That's right, Hurricane Isaac has postponed the game of Texas A&M against Louisiana Tech. Obviously, Hurricane Isaac hitting the campus and the area by Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech, the defending WAC champions, hosting Texas A&M, the new members of the SEC. Thursday's scheduled opponent for Louisiana Tech obviously was Texas A&M, and this game has been postponed to October 13th because of Hurricane Isaac. Both schools were scheduled to have a bye that week, so instead they'll spend week 1 not playing, and they will spend that October 13th week playing each other in Louisiana at Louisiana Tech. The game was scheduled to be at Independence Stadium in Shreveport, Louisiana, but Louisiana Tech Athletic Director Bruce Van de Velde says the university officials who announced the postponement on Tuesday are concerned about the safety of the athletes and fans and want to be cautious of the effect of the storm that could have on residents throughout the region. Officials say that the kickoff time will be determined at a later date. Tickets to parking have already been purchased and will be honored, but there will be no refund. So a little bit of a bummer if you're taking a vacation to Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana that weekend to watch Texas A&M and Louisiana Tech. But this is the first postponement in the wake of Hurricane Isaac. But this is not the only game that it might also affect, which has poised to hit the southeastern coastline on Tuesday and Wednesday. Several other games could be impacted. Tulane, which plays at the Mercedes Superdome, of course, the Saints play there also. the Tulane Green Wave is scheduled to open its season on Saturday against Rutgers, but Rutgers officials say there is no update on whether the game will be played, and we will know more in the coming days, obviously, as that Tulane-Rutgers game was scheduled for Saturday, but that also could be postponed. Tulane has been practicing in Birmingham, Alabama at Samford University for the past few days, so that's unfortunate to hear. A game that I was really looking forward to, Texas A&M, a new member of the SEC, Louisiana Tech, the defending WAC champion, supposed to bring back another really good squad this year. You know, my sleeper pick, not my Boise State, because you know how Boise State dominated in the WAC for all those years, but kind of a team that from a weaker conference that might have a chance to go undefeated. I mean, I'm not saying that Louisiana Tech is supposed to win this game against Texas A&M, but you look at their schedule and it's almost somewhat, it is a challenge, but it almost is somewhat impressive if they can go undefeated. They got Houston, Rice, Illinois, Virginia, UNLV, Texas A&M. They're rescheduled to October 13th. Idaho, New Mexico State, Texas San Antonio, Texas State, Utah State, and San Jose State. So obviously you have the good teams from last year. You had Houston last year beat Penn State in the Ticket City Bowl. You had Illinois win the Kraft Hunger Bowl. You have a good team from the ACC in Virginia. And then you have Texas A&M, the newest members of the Southeastern Conference, to go along with a very, very weak Western Athletic Conference. So, you know, there's a real chance that Louisiana Tech could go undefeated. And if they go undefeated, you know, you're going to see them possibly in the top 10 rankings, kind of where you'd see Boise State. Would a Louisiana Tech undefeated season translate into a BCS bowl? That's probably going to remain to be seen. You know, of course, Houston last year, 13-1, I believe. Yes, 13-1 they lost one game to Southern Miss, and that killed their BCS chances. I mean, they obviously weren't going to go to the BCS title game. That was already set in stone for that ridiculous LSU-Alabama matchup, but obviously when you're from a weaker conference, you have to play the tough schedule, and there's good teams, non-conference teams that Louisiana Tech is facing in their schedule, and you know, if they can somehow pull off an undefeated season, it'll be interesting to see how they are judged by the committee of the BCS and what bowl game they will get placed in. When we come back, we'll have news on the NFL, we'll have MLB score updates, and we'll get you caught up on those interesting wild card standing. How about the Rays? I thought they had for sure a wild card spot. They're not even in the top 2 anymore. We'll explain when we get back on Chris's Corner. You're listening to Chris's Corner on Spreaker.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's Chris's Corner on Spreaker.com. I'm Chris Sylvester. We just talked about the excitement of what the college football season is going to be bringing. Less than 48 hours away from kickoff. It all kicks off in about 45 hours from now between Vanderbilt and South Carolina. Usually we have a 7 o'clock show for Chris's Corner, but I'm going to be busy watching college football, and I encourage you to watch college football as well. You know, it's just, it's so great to have it back finally. It's ridiculous how it seems that college football has the longest off season as well as the NFL. Football in general has the longest off seasons, the shortest regular seasons. So I think that's why we miss it so much compared to the other sports. And trust me, I miss my baseball when it's winter time, and I miss my basketball right now. But you know, it's comes a point in time where you just can't take it anymore, and I've been at that breaking point for about a month now, and I'm very excited, and I hope you guys are very excited too to see how this college football season unfolds. You know, USC at the top, Alabama right there, so it's going to be awfully fun to see how it all plays out. Major League Baseball, don't sleep on that topic as well. Major League Baseball, I'm very anxious to see how these wild card races fold out in the next coming weeks, as well as the division races. as well as the MVP and Cy Young award races. But let's get to some scores for you now. We have about 4 finals right now, and then we have a couple games that just got underway on the West Coast. So let's get to the games in action right now. Top of the ninth in Philadelphia, it's the Mets 5 and the Phillies 5. Both those teams seemed like 5 or 6 years ago always battled it out for the top spot in the National League East, but are down there at the bottom now with the resurgence of the Washington Nationals and the Atlanta Braves. Oakland is just keeping hot. 7-0, they lead the Indians, top of the ninth. Oakland, of course, is going to keep pace with Baltimore, who won their game 6-0. They beat Chris Sale. So a good sign for the Orioles as they get good pitching. They did sign Randy Wolf today. They did acquire Joe Saunders over the weekend, so to solidify that rotation, a couple left-handers added, and it's going to be interesting how this wild card race, we'll get to the standings in a moment, but it's going to be interesting how the Orioles and A's will do as September is quickly approaching us. Milwaukee 3, Cubs 1, that game in the top of the 8th at Wrigley. San Francisco and Houston are knotted up at 1 in the bottom of the 7th at Minute Maid Park. Texas, a rare low-scoring game in Arlington. Texas leads the Rays 1-0, that game in the top of the 7th. Kansas City scored 7 runs off of Justin Verlander in the first 2 innings. His woes at Kauffman Stadium continue, of course, his poor performance in the All-Star game against the National League. Maybe it wasn't that the National League was so great. Maybe it's just a problem that he has with that mound there in KC, but Detroit is climbing its way back, and they've gotten it to 7-6. The Royals lead that game only in the bottom of the 6th, so plenty of time for the Tigers to make a comeback. Obviously, they are in the heat of the division race, not only in the wild card, but also in the AL Central, as they are looking to make up ground on the White Sox, who we just mentioned lost tonight to the Baltimore Orioles. Seattle 5, Minnesota 1, that game in the bottom of the 7th. Seattle pitching has been very good lately. You saw Felix Hernandez throw his 5th complete game shutout of the season. Tonight it was Iwakuma's turn for the Mariners, and he's done pretty well himself. He started off the game with 4 no-hit innings, but Minnesota's tacked on a run. But still, Seattle leads 5-1. Seattle has been playing very good ball here in the second half. The Los Angeles Dodgers. Oh, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the team that got absolutely stacked this past weekend, getting Gonzalez, Crawford, Punto, and Beckett, are on the verge of losing their 3rd straight game. Granted, it's still early. It's still early in Colorado, but the Rockies lead this one 6-2. And that was my only problem with the Dodgers making it to the playoffs, is after Kershaw, I mean, who else is really going to be that guy to step up in the rotation? Chad Billingsley's done for the season with an elbow injury. You never know. It could even pitch next year if it gets to the point where he needs Tommy John. That remains to be seen. But, you know, you do have Beckett now. He has playoff experience, but, I mean, the guy is not getting any younger. The clock's not all of a sudden going to turn back on Josh Beckett one day. He pitched 5 2/3, did all right yesterday, 6 strikeouts, gave up 3, walked a couple, had an ERA in the mid-5s with the Red Sox. Kind of looked like that same kind of pitcher yesterday in Colorado. So, you know, if